Hey, I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 80, Van Zant versus Namajunas. But before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. I am an aspiring author, and on my website, you can check out my blogs, and they're updated weekly. Um, the Writer's Talk web series, free short stories and stories for sale as well. My first novel, The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, which is a fantasy novel, will be coming out on January 1st. The price for that will just be $8.95. So please support me and buy the book. It's going to be a digital copy only. Okay, on to the fight card. Real fun fights. I believe there were 10 out of the 12. I'm not counting Casey versus Carlos Jr. as a fight because it ended in 11 seconds by eye poke and went to no contest. So I'm not really counting that as anything really. But so 10 out of the 12 fights went to finish. And one thing that was interesting to note was the use of the smaller cage. I'm actually at this point, from what I've seen from the smaller cage, it seems to produce more finishes. I'd like to see a stat on that. Um, but if that is the case, they should definitely use it. My picks, if we're going by 12 fights, not counting the Casey versus Carlos Jr. fight, I got 10 out of 12. The only two I missed were Danny Roberts versus Nathan Coy and Elias Theodoro versus Thiago Murata Santos. Bonuses, performance of the night went to Tim Means and Rose Namajunas, and fight of the night went to Jim Miller and Michael Chiesa. So let's get started. Rose Namajunas defeated Paige Van Zant by rear naked choke in the fifth round. I mean, this was a clinic from Rose Namajunas. I actually forgot to write down the stat, but in 5 rounds, within like or yeah, in 5 rounds, like Paige Van Zandt only got like 22 strikes in or something like that. It was like a blowout. Um, Van Zandt was out clinched. She was out wrestled. She was out struck. She was out positioned. All by Namajunas. I mean, it really was a case of Namajunas just being the much more technical fighter. And you know what? Paige Van Zandt, to her credit, fighting off tears in the post-fight presser, said so herself that she needs to work on her technique and that she pretty much got dominated. There was a lot to like from Rose Namajunas out of this fight, though. Her striking looked good. Her patience looked good. It's funny. She used to kind of approach fights like Paige Van Zandt did. Go for the flying armbar, go for some jumping kick. Be a little more unorthodox. Go for the side kicks. Um, Rose is becoming just a much more solid and technically sound fighter, and that was something a while back I was really hoping to see from her, and I think now we're starting to finally see it. I've never even seen a wrestling game from Rose Namajunas. Now you're seeing her doing clinch takedowns over and over again. Um, Her positional, when she's on top, she's going for the ground and pound, passing smoothly, getting dominant positions, getting opportunistic, trying to get the opportunistic subs. Um, just a lot to like from Rose Namajunas. We all knew she had potential. I think the technique's finally catching up. I can really see it in the way that this fight. One other thing about this fight that's really interesting about her is she didn't really make any mistakes. I mean, it's just like I don't think there's any point in the fight where I thought, oh, Paige can get ahead here. No, Rose would. Oh, Rose looks like she's slipping off. Nope. Oh, she's slipping off. Oh, she'll go into the ride position or something like that. You know. Great stuff from Rose Namajunas. I mean, it was just a clinic. Paige Van Zant, heart of a fighter. I mean, seriously, she could have tapped from the first rear naked choke, from some armbar attempts. She has the heart of a fighter for sure. She just needs the technique. It's something I noticed about Paige Van Zant though, and I think this fight really exploited it. It just watch Van Zant's fights from when she started the UFC till now. Watch her approach. Watch her approach when she was in the regional scene up until now. Her approach never changes in how she fights. She always bull rushes into that clinch, and she does not have great technique to get the fight to the ground. She's able to get away with certain things, but there's clearly a level of competition that just will not fall for that. And obviously, Namajunas is in that level of competition. Um, Paige is still young. She can definitely work on that technique, but she needs to not just work on it on the gym, but once the UFC matches are up again, I'm curious to see who they match her up with, to see if she can kind of utilize certain things against certain level of competition. You want to kind of test out what your new tricks, in the cage. Um, but yeah, her approach hasn't changed, and that's something to watch out for. She still hasn't been fighting for too long. Um, she's still super young, really athletic too. I think Rose was able to match that athleticism as well. Paige has stuff you can't teach, like heart, but it just hasn't matched her. Her technique hasn't matched those other traits that she has as a fighter. Will she get there? I'll say this: maybe. It's just that her contemporaries, who are also young, like Rose Namajunas, I'd also say Miske Inoue. I'd also say Alexa Grasso, who are all like really young, are much farther ahead on a technical level than Paige is right now. And it's something I've noticed for a while. I've even done like an MMA Q&A question about this, about Paige Van Zant and this, her not being technical and whatnot. As far as who Namajunas gets next, I guess she's pretty high up in the rankings, so she'll probably get like Jessica Penne, Tisha Torres if she beats Jocelyn Jones Leibarger, maybe Valu Latourneau next. Van Zant needs to kind of move back down, get that experience going. Calderwood wouldn't be a bad fight. I would like to see her Van Zant fight like Morose, maybe. I think that'd be a good fight for Van Zant. Next fight after that, Michael Chiesa defeated Jim Miller by rear naked choke in the second round. Solid win for Chiesa here. He did make the mistake of giving up his leg to Jim Miller, and that's how Jim Miller got the dominant position in the first round. The second round, it looked like that Chiesa learned. One thing about Chiesa, he's big for the weight class. He's 6 foot. Jim Miller's kind of small for the weight class, and Chiesa can wrestle. He was easily able to take Jim Miller down. Easily. Jim Miller's takedown defense isn't the greatest. His ability to get back to the feet actually isn't that great. He likes to play guard a lot of times. Jim Miller does. And against a guy like Chiesa's savvy. I mean, what happened when Jim Miller went for the leg lock again? He kept getting pounded, and he looked dazed, and then, that opened up more ground and pound for Chiesa to get a dominant position. Eventually, the rear naked choke. And, taking back again the rear naked choke is Chiesa's specialty. Chiesa definitely needs to work on his stand-up. I don't think he'll ever get good stand-up, though. There's just something about him and his body type that just doesn't seem to be able to get stand up very well, especially in boxing. His boxing and footwork is so awkward. I don't know if he'll ever get it. Clinch striking, yeah, but just like boxing, kickboxing, I just can't see it very well. Nonetheless, Kiesa does need to step up in competition, maybe a Bobby Green, an Al Iaquinta, or maybe even the winner of Joseph Duffy versus Dustin Poirier. Jim Miller can keep playing like a gatekeeper role. I think the wheels are starting to fall off of Jim Miller though, so that's definitely something to watch out for when he goes up against some of these like better prospects. I'm gonna have a pretty hard time picking Jim Miller. Next fight of that, Sage Northcutt defeated Cody Pfister by guillotine in the second round. That stand up from the referee was pretty ridiculous in the first round. Northcutt needs to work on his game off his back. He showed no real ability to get back to his feet when taken down. There's some positions that Pfister just gave away that opened up triangles or arm bars. There's one in particular where he's almost sideways, kind of like he's almost giving up his back to Northcutt. Um, Northcutt, though, did show an ability to take Pfister down. Northcutt was just the superior athlete. And, he got a solid win over Cody Pfister here. There was, it was a good guillotine. Northcutt's a strong guy. I mean, it shows. But there's still a lot of stuff he needs to work on. But you know what? The guy's only been fighting MMA for like a year. So you got to kind of cut him some slack. The fact that he's like getting wins in the UFC. Yeah, not against the best guys, but you know what? Like, it, Fitzer's still a tough guy, He's still someone that Northcutt was able to finish. And that's, that alone is to do that in the UFC at this level, to have this much spotlight on him at this age, it's got to count for something, One thing about Northcutt, though, I don't know why he gave that Fight Pass promo in the post-fight interview. I have no idea what that was about. Um, Otherwise, let's give Northcutt like an Akbar Areola. Taihu Bang, who's coming off a win, actually wouldn't be too bad. That'd actually be a pretty solid level of competition. Joe Ellenberger, maybe Horatio Gutierrez, because you can't really give Northcutt anyone like great at this point of the game. Even saying something like Taihoon Bang, that's pretty decent, all things considered. Considering Northcutt's lack of experience, I mean, he just doesn't have a lot of fights. You got to cut him some slack, give him some of the more lowest tier guys of lightweight, and you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with bringing him slowly because he's still work in progress. Pfister will just get more lower to mid tier guys in the division. Next fight off that, Thiago Morata Santos defeated Elias Theodoro by unanimous decision. What can I say about Thiago Santos, man? This guy, I mean, he went from a guy that I thought would be bounced from the UFC, coming off Ultimate Fighter Brazil, turned out to be something of a fun action fighter. Now he's a middleweight with a win streak. I mean, you know, um, I think there's some mid-level guys that are gonna beat Santos, but there's some mid-level guys that Santos can clearly beat. He's a tough guy. Elias Theodoro's a tough guy too. He probably shouldn't have started grappling with Santos, getting into that clinch range so he get kneed and whatnot. That was a big mistake on Theodoro's part. Theodoro's big, he's always pushing forward, but he needs to work on his technical game for sure too. That's the other thing with Theodoro. Sometimes he throws too many single kicks and whatnot. He's still really raw. I still think that Theodoro is going to be one of the better prospects of middleweight, but he's still very raw. prospect at this point. Thiago Murata Santos, I mean, just, let's kind of put him into top 11 to 15 and see if he can beat some of those guys at this point. Uh, I think there's a couple guys he can actually. Theodoro, just more lower to mid tier guys at the division. Count to the prelims, Tim Means defeated John Howard by knockout in the second round. He made Howard stiff, man. I mean, Tim Means is a dangerous guy. He is a guy that can, he is a potent finisher. He has some pretty heavy hands, elbows, and knees, and he's always pushing forward too. Howard, I don't know if he's long for the UFC or not, and I think Howard's chin is slowly but surely deteriorating. If he does stay, Howard's just get one lower tier guys in the division. With Tim Means, I think this is his first one coming off the loss to Matt Brown. So, a good fight that's easy matchmaking would be against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Both are coming up wins. Both are more striking-based fighters. So, I think that'd be a good fight. If you want to give him a real fun fight, too, you can give him the winner of Tumanov versus Larkin. But I think at that point, Tumanov and Larkin are kind of a bit ahead of Means at this point in time. Next fight after that, Sergio Moraes defeated Omari Akhmadov by TKO in the third round. I don't know how that happened, man. I just almost laughed. I picked Sergio Moraes to win, too, and he was totally losing the fight. Totally thought he'd lose. He got dropped in, the first or second. It didn't look like he was really going to catch up. He throws a straight right that connects and just goes to town. Akhmadov drops, and it's just like the guy that he's a jiu-jitsu guy. You don't really think of him as heavy-handed or anything. But yeah, he got the TKO win. He's extending his win streak actually. Hopefully he just fights more. Just more mid-tier guys at the division. He's a funny guy, fun fighter. Yeah. Akhmadov, he needs to work on his conditioning. I guess you can still put him in the prospect range, but there's definitely some things he needs to work on. He's not much of a volume striker. He can probably try to utilize his wrestling a little more, mix it in a little more. Seems to want to throw too many power strikes. Good fighter. I think he can beat some good mid-level guys, and that's probably who should get next. But he'll lose to your Gunnar Nelsons or Sergio Moraes apparently. If they fought again, I'd probably pick Akhmadov. But hey, Moraes got the win here. Won't talk anything about the Kevin Casey versus Antonio Carlos Jr. fight because it's an unintentional eye poke that happened in 11 seconds. So next fight after Aljamain Sterling defeated Johnny Eduardo by guillotine in the second round. Aljamain Sterling is a special talent. I mean, he trains with Sarah Longo. He is charismatic on the mic. In the cage, he still needs to work on the striking. He seems to be just a little too kick happy, but real good athlete, really good wrestling, creative submission game. I mean, this was, you can watch the arm triangle that he gets on Takeya Mizugaki. I mean, he's really just unique in that regard. He was able to take Eduardo down quite easily too, and Eduardo seemed a bit too content off of his back, and maybe for good reason because off the scramble, guess what happens? He gets ground and pounded, guillotined, and he's done. This is actually the last fight on Aljamain Sterling's contract. I believe he is going into free agency, similar like Benson Henderson. Give Sterling the money. Give him main card bouts too. The guy is one of the top prospects in bantamweight. He's exciting. He's charismatic. He's young, and he's never even fought on a main card. It's like, and he's ranked. You know, why is this guy being in the prelims still? He needs to be put out there to a broader audience, and he deserves it. He does. I think he is total blue chip prospect. I can see him fight for a title, in actually the near future because he's already beaten like ranked opposition. So yeah, hopefully he gets signs back with the UFC and moves onward and upwards and gets just more top 10 talent. Maybe give Aljamain Sterling the winner of Faber versus Frankie Saenz. Maybe give him a Francisco Rivera. Um, just some pretty high level guys. Johnny Eduardo, give him more striking based fighters and he'll find fights. If he goes against grappling based fighters, usually he's going to lose those. Usually, you know. Next fight after that, Santiago Ponzinibbio defeated Andreas Stahl by TKO in the first round. Stahl looked like kind of scared to strike Ponzinibbio. I mean, he shelled up a lot, and then he got blasted with a right hand, and subsequently finished. I think Stahl got Ponzinibbio to the ground, but Ponzinibbio is good at getting back to his feet when he's taken down. He has good counter wrestling. I like what I see out of Ponzinibbio. I think he's going to top off as a fun action fighter at this point. But fight with like a Tim Means would be pretty cool. With Andreas Stahl, solid fighter, but still kind of limited. I don't know if he's going to get too far in the UFC. It's more lower to mid-tier guys in the division for him. Next fight after that, Danny Roberts defeated Nathan Coy by triangle choke in the first round. Good win for Danny Roberts. I'm glad he's training with the Black Zillions. I think that's really going to help him. I'm still a bit skeptical about Danny Roberts' takedown defense. Looks like a guy that's, he still did get taken down. So I'm very skeptical about that. Striking's really good, like his boxing, but still worried about that. But I think he's working with the right team and the Black Zillions to fix that. Isn't it like Kenny Monday who's like the coach for Black Zillions Wrestling or something like that, or someone like pretty high level, including having like Rashad Evans and whatnot. Good win for him. First win in the UFC. Got the finish by submission, actually. It's good stuff for him there. Nathan Coy, he'll probably get another shot in the UFC, but Coy's only real avenue to win fights is to grind out decisions, and at welterweight, it is so hard to do that, It really is. In the UFC, most guys can have good takedown defense or really good ability to get back to their feet when they're taken down. So I don't know about Coy's chances of winning in the UFC at this point, but definitely deserves another chance. Both guys are more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. Next fight after that, Zubair Tukhugov defeated Felipe Nova by split decision. Don't really know why this was a split. I thought Tukhugov kind of won this pretty comfortably at 30-27. Felipe Nova is just kind of, at this point, he's just kind of there at this point. He's not a prospect. He's not really much of a gatekeeper. He's not much of a fun action fighter or anything like that. He's just kind of there, Tukhugov still needs some work, but heavy hitting guy. Able to keep fights on the feet. I still think he's a pretty good prospect. He's kind of like that dark horse prospect that no one knows about. I expect him to keep getting wins in the UFC, though. And yeah, just get more like mid-level guys at the division, really. For Nover, he's good for Asia cards. If they go back to the Philippines, he's good there, I guess. But and he doesn't really have much point in the UFC at this point. He did come before this. He's coming off a win, so he should probably get just another fight against a lower tier guy of the division. And finally, Kylan Curran defeated Emily Kagan by rear naked choke in the second round. Kagan's probably gonna get cut from the UFC after this. She lost to Angela Hill and who else has she lost to? And now to Kyla Curran. I want to say she lost to someone else too. I forgot who it was. But yeah, Kagan's best thing about her is she's kind of just tough. She's pretty big for weight class. She can grind her opponent against the fence. I mean, that's her offense, really. Kylan Curran, she's young, still improving, found an opportunistic sub. Good on her. I don't know about her chances of winning too much in the UFC women's strawweight division. There's some lower tier fighters that she could probably beat, though. She's not a bad wrestler. She's still just very much a work in progress. She just got more lower tier fighters of the division, really. So that's it for my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 80. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.